Red Sox fans have long to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. This is going to be a tough play. It's over.
Welcome to the best sports podcast on the planet. My name is Brandon Combs. This is Triple Shot Sports. I am joined, as always, by the Soup Boss. Soup Boss, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing better than my fellow OKC peeps out here down in Oklahoma. Rough night for them last night, even for me. They've kind of become my second team. A little bit of a bummer. The nice thing, though, is I get to turn around and just look at my Celtics up by 10 at halftime and just go, I'm doing just fine, guys. I don't know what you're all mopey about. Come on. The Celtics are on. Join me. They don't seem to.
No, they don't usually like that, especially when you're living in cities where their teams just get eliminated. I'll never forget the 2013 Stanley Cup Finals, man. When the Hawks took down the Bruins, and I was living in New England, and all my friends were Bruins fans, and all the championships that I had to live through, and all the championships that Boston was winning at the time, and then when the Hawks scored those two quick goals at the end of Game 6, oh my God!
Let's be honest, though,
I was loud.
People didn't want to celebrate with you, probably because just like everyone else outside of Boston, you and all the other sports fans think that we're the biggest pompous a-holes next to Thanos, thinking that he could just take over the Avengers universe. A little shout out there.
You guys are pompous. I just think you guys are spoiled.
Oh, we know we're spoiled. We just don't give two craps about it. We know it.
All right, so we got a great show lined up for you guys. We got some MLB talk. We got some NHL talk. We got some NBA talk. We're even going to get into our top 5 sports movies of all time. But first, this episode, we are going to bring it all to the fans. We want this stuff to be about you guys. So normally we end the show with Shop Talk, and this time Shop Talk is going to lead us in. And as always, Shop Talk is brought to you by BigDogPoker.net. On BigDogPoker.net, when you sign up, do your $50 deposit. Use agent code GoCubsGo. That's agent code GoCubsGo. When you sign up and your $50 deposit, these guys have some great tournaments. These guys do some really good things. They have some, penny cash tables. They have, 1 cent, 2 cent blinds, nickel, dime, quarter, whatever you want to play. You can play. And even if you're learning, they'll help you learn. You got a lot of good players on there, a lot of good poker players that are willing to talk you through some things if you're just trying to learn the games. So
yeah, they got a great Facebook group of people too. So you got something on there. Once you get on, you got questions, you're wondering about something. People put screenshots on and go, hey, listen, I was in this game. This happened. What was I supposed to do here? I actually don't understand what this is. So it's even a great place where you don't have to feel like you walk right in and have to be a superstar like you do on other sites. So good place to go to start learning poker. Or if you're just sick and tired of the same old crap on the other sites, go hang out with us and go play some poker somewhere else with some other people.
Absolutely. And, so we're going to start off with Shop Talk today. Today, we want to start off with anything you guys want to talk about. Let's make this show about you guys. What do you guys want to know? Before we get into what you guys want to know, and as you guys start filling up the comments, I want Soup Boss here to let these guys know where they can find us.
Yeah, so you guys, as we've been talking about, you can find us. Social media, of course, here on Facebook, Triple Shot Sports Podcast, but on Instagram and Twitter, as we continue to grow those, it's the @symbol, @3 Shot Sports, @3 Shot Sports on both Instagram and Twitter. In fact, when we go over the Twitter poll halfway through the show, one of our Twitter polls, I didn't tell you this, Mr. Combs, blew up. So, and I didn't even put a hashtag. So it wasn't because the name was just trending in particular. It was just, we just got a lot of attention, which was great. And then more importantly, as we get closer and closer to the Sunday countdown of taking one of the 10 items off of the giveaway list, we are on YouTube, and that is at Triple Shot Sports Podcast. Again, Triple Shot Sports Podcast. search it on YouTube. I've started on our stories on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm going to start putting it instead of the actual address. You can just YouTube, and I'm going to put it in there so you can go on yourself and search instead of there being a hyperlink embedded in there. But even on our stories that I have and I post them, I've got the link in there. Just click on that, get in there, subscribe. Make sure your subscriptions can be seen. And when we hit 100, we'll go through and we'll start giving stuff away. But as Mr. Combs brought up here in our last episode, every Sunday we get to where we don't hit 100 people, we play Angry Dads, and we take one of those things away.
Yeah, hey, look, we got some great prizes too. I've got the Tatis jersey that I've already shown you guys. I got these 2 jerseys that I'm going to continue to have sitting behind me. I got a Calvin Ridley Alabama jersey, a Michael Vick Falcons jersey.
Got a lot of excitement about those.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got the Joe Mauer All-Star jersey plus the Joe Mauer All-Star ball. We've got a rookie Saquon Barkley autographed jersey. We've got a ton of stuff. I've got the Philip Lindsay Broncos replica helmet, full size. So look, guys, if you guys want some of that stuff coming your way or want the chance to have it coming your way, definitely let us know, by subscribing on the YouTube channel. And once you subscribe, once we get to 100 subscribers, we'll go ahead and put those 100 names in a hopper, and we're going to get those prizes out to people. So don't make me take anything away. Let's get to 100 subscribers. We got 250, almost 260 subscribers on our Facebook page. That means less than half just need to go on to the YouTube channel and just click subscribe, and we will get you guys some free stuff.
Hey, and Sports Soup family, we've got almost 1,000 of us on there and continuing to grow that. I've seen some good people post on there, but remember, if you want a better chance at getting stuff, get other people, share it on Sports Soup, share it on your normal Facebook. Get people on there to subscribe. The better we get that, the more quicker we get that number up to 100, the better chances you guys have there in Soup. But Soup family, we should have already had this 100 like that. So help us out here.
So TJ Burns says Tin Cup has to make the cut for top 5 sports movies. TJ Burns, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Tin Cup is not in my top 5.
Tin Cup is a great
not in my
movie.
top 5, but it is a great movie. It is a really good movie.
That's the thing. We're talking about when Wayne a couple weeks ago was in here, and you guys did top 5 or top 10 baseball movies. You were just doing baseball. Right. I think I just had a little Harry Carey come out of me, just doing baseball. But
it's the beer.
I didn't. No, this isn't St. Louis beer. It's a Kansas City beer. I almost was going to say it's St. Louis beer just to piss you off, but that was just that. We're doing just top 5 sports movies of all time. So there are going to be a lot. You think you saw me get pissed in the comments when you guys completely screwed 42? We're going to have people pissed off because we're going to have a ton of movies like Tin Cup. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. Same as Mr. Combs. Not in my top 5, but one hell of a movie.
Very good movie. Very good movie. John C.T. Hoffman chimes in. I want to hear about Combs' plans to make America great again. Brandon Combs for president. Look, John.
I will not be his vice president. I'm sorry.
Hoffy. Do not put that evil on me. I do not want the job of running this great country. I love my country. I fought for my country. I do not want the job of running it, though. I'll tell you what, though. If I got elected just to please you, because you want to know what I would do is I would take politics out of mainstream media. I would find a way to figure out what is going on and what is driving media agendas and political agendas.
I would shut down the media is what they would report it as. President Combs is shutting down the media.
Mainstream media would no longer allowed to be able to drive political agendas. That's for sure. I think that would be my number one goal. You know
what I would do if I became president? I'd make Stone Cold Steve Austin be my vice president. We'd drink a ton of beer out the front lawn, and then we would just kick the shit out of people who are just being dumbasses. That's pretty much it. So
I'd probably bring The Rock so we could, tell them to take their signs, turn them some bitches sideways, and shove them straight up their candy asses.
You see that jabroni? Jabroni is now officially a word in the dictionary as of this week. Iron Sheik in The Rock made jabroni a real word.
Yeah.
In
On the
English
same day
language.
that we find out The Rock and his family are down with COVID.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So guys, chime in. This segment's all for you. Things that you guys want to talk about. We'll talk about a couple things while you guys get in on the comments. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you want to talk about. Right now, the Islanders just tied up the Flyers in their game 6, so it's 2-2 with about 18 minutes to go in the second period. So that's a game. Look, man, if they go 7, I do not like the Islanders' chances. The Islanders need to finish it tonight.
Yeah, they have to. The Flyers are the better team. And I told this to you when we were going through the round robin. I thought that they were the team to beat. Now I've kind of, as it is with the NHL through round by round, that ability changes. Yeah. But sometimes the best teams end up having some of the best challenges. And let's admit it, we all are shocked with what the Islanders are doing, and it's a great story. But sometimes the teams that you aren't expecting to do so well are the teams that end up surprising you. So it's almost like the Flyers had to kind of like catch their breath and go, okay, hold on. So if they can come back and win this game 6, I got the Flyers winning game 7. And I'm telling you, as great as the Lightning were and they punched the Bruins right in the mouth, I'll take the Flyers against the Lightning. I thought it was going to be the Islanders definitely getting in. But, man, the Flyers to me are the best team going into the round robins.
As you say that, the Islanders just took a 3-2 lead.
Philly fans hate my guts even more.
TJ Burns says, y'all can have Stone Cold and The Rock. I'll take The Undertaker all day, every day.
We became a WWE podcast. Let's be honest. I just would have Stone Cold because of the political nature. You need someone like that. But if there's going to be someone that's going to literally be the representation of me, that would speak for me, because I would be too drunk half the time to speak. Ric Flair, the GOAT of wrestling, would be the guy. Woo! He would be out there. Cumberland Farms up in the Northeast doing commercials for them. I'm on LinkedIn. He's like wishing people happy birthday. Companies are now hiring him to like do that. The guy's probably making 10 times more money doing stuff like this just for fun than he ever did wrestling. It's amazing. So
you can have the Undertaker, TJ Burns, but then what I'm going to do if you have the Undertaker, my secretary of staff is going to be Brock Lesnar, and he's going to take you out.
That was a terrible joke. Stupid.
Bjorn chimes in. Talk about me, a 35-year-old college pitcher. Oh my God. So Bjorn Bjorn is a good friend of mine, and he decided to go back to school. He was 35. Look, this kid's got 2 Purple Hearts. He is an American hero for sure. But we like to talk trash. His nickname is Skittles for all of those that don't know. This guy went to Iraq and Fallujah wearing some Skittles shorts, shooting ISIS, wearing rainbow-colored shorts. It was absolutely amazing. But no, so when he got back, he decided to go back to school, and they let him pitch, and they let him play sports, and he was a 35-year-old pitcher on a college team, and he threw a no-hitter. I mean, look, if I was going out playing
up on the little kids,
look, if I was going out there pitching little league batting practice, I'd throw a no too.
No. These kids get out there. You watch college baseball. They get out there, they strut their stuff, they throw up that curl stink lip when they get to the plate, thinking they're king shit, not realizing that the next step they have to actually use a wooden bat. And good for you, Bjorn, going up there, teach them what real life tastes like. Go out there, sit him down.
It's fine. No, like good for him. He threw a no-hitter. I mean, it was against the Perkins School for the Blind, but he did throw a no-hitter. So.
Hey, if they wanted to play, you engage with who wants to play. I go out every single week in the basketball wheelchair league, and I go out there and I dunk on them. Who cares? They want to play, we'll play.
Bjorn says he's just mad he can't hit a softball. Oh boy, here we go. TJ, I knew that was gonna come up. Hey, TJ, look, you come at me with Taker, I'm coming at you with the only man to beat him at WrestleMania. Simple as that.
Stupid.
I'll see your Brock and raise you a Goldberg. Look, speaking of Brock Lesnar, so Brock Lesnar,
I was waiting for this. Good
it was what's his face there?
Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle, who says that I know for a fact that Brock really wants John Jones. And look, I'm not a Brock guy. I'm not a big fan of Brock Lesnar. I don't like him as a person. I don't like his character in WWE. I think he's
going to lose his mind.
I think Brock Lesnar is just a douchebag of a person, and I would never say that to his face because he would eat me. But I don't like Brock Lesnar a whole lot. So I would love to go see him fight John Bones Jones because I think John Bones Jones would murder that guy. Oh, he would murder him. He's too fast.
You know what? He wouldn't kick the crap out of him. He'd be way too smart for Brock. Brock's he's a weeble wobble, but unlike those, he actually does fall down. John would find a way to cut the legs out from underneath Brock Lesnar and then just be on top of him in no time. Like the whole Brock Lesnar experience in life to me is a reason why people hate America. I don't know. Yeah. I just first off, don't glorify redneck tattoos. Like they're bad enough as it is. Putting a big sword down your chest, just look. I don't care what people think that looks badass. It looks dumb that you've got a big sword pointing to your dick. Yeah. And on top of that, a huge meat puppet. He looks like every other like angry fat boy that still has the face of a 12-year-old kid, and he's like 45 or something like that now, and he still looks the same. Like he drives me nuts. In that fight where his opponent backed out, and that redheaded guy, that scruffy, half chubby guy came in and beat him. That was enough for me to just go that this is pathetic. It's all set up crap.
Joshua CV says Yannick Ngakoue and Daniel Hunter, best edge rushing duo in the NFL. Wrong, Joshua CV. Same division.
And I'll disagree with you here too.
Chicago Bears have the best edge rushing duo in the NFL. I don't care what you say. I will take anyone that has Khalil Mack on one edge. I don't care who you have on the second edge. They have the best edge rushing duo in the NFL.
I find that
speaking
funny.
Of which, there's another thing I might pitch you off, Joshua CV. I hope you haven't seen this yet, and maybe you haven't either, Sue Boss. Did you see the Madden 21 season simulation today?
I don't give two craps about the worst Metacritic Madden that's ever come out.
The Madden 21
bunch of garbage
simulation today had the Bears at 14-2 and beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, baby. Woo!
Did you put them there?
No.
Then shut up. Who cares? You can't Madden.
Hey, I don't care.
By the way, you can't sit here.
And they had Nick Foles as the MVP of the Super Bowl.
You can't sit here, by the way, and give Joshua CV this bull crap about best division, not even being the best edge rushing team in the division, when we sat here and had a fight about if players sit out, if it hurts their careers. And I brought up Khalil Mack. Like, if he sits out for a year, are people not going to sign him? And you were like, oh, yeah, he's getting older. You're so full of it. Get out of here with that crap. They're the third best.
Look,
They're the third best. The Steelers and the Chargers have the two tandems that are above them. The Vikings now have the third. I love Khalil Mack more than you do, and you're a Bears fan. But that duo does not beat that duo up in Minnesota now.
Look,
when you're high on drugs. Joshua knows a lot about drugs, as we've talked about. He's got one heck of a drug dealer.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is what happens when we put Shop Talk on the front end. Here we go. Now we're getting good stuff.
Absolutely. But look, I mean, you look at Ngakoue and Hunter. I mean, look, those guys, they might get 30 sacks this year between the two of them. They are a very good front end, but I mean, like you said, I think the Chargers are better than them too. Yep. Bosa and who's our second edge rusher there? I can't think of his name.
I want to say Hunter, but that's not his name.
No. Crow.
Man, we look absolutely terrible right now.
I can't think of his name for the life of me.
But now I'm even looking at, because I put the Steelers at number 2, and I know it's Watt, and I can't even think of who's the other guy for the Steelers.
I'm horrible with names, as you guys have found out as we go.
What's crazy is I know that Robert Quinn is the other one for the Bears, so I'm actually making you sound better on that side. With that, there's a lot of people, by the way, that think that the Packers' 2 edge rushers are better than both the Bears and still the Vikings, which is crazy. Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram is the other one. But I think Cameron Hayward and Watt are the best 2 in football right now. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, they're man. I love TJ Watt, man. That guy can play some freaking football.
Smart.
He's a beast.
Smart player. And Cameron is he's just
pronounced Daniil. No, it's not. Josh, as long as he plays in Minnesota, his first name is always going to be Danielle. I don't care what you say. Danielle Hunter. He's got my sister's name, Danielle.
I don't even have it. Pronounce it. Duh. Welcome to Minnesota, eh?
Yeah. Hey, look, try not blowing it in the NFC title game this year. And that's coming from a Bears fan.
I was going to say, as a Bears fan, I mean, I kind of think it's kind of funny because you want to pick on the Vikings for the field goal mishap thing, but it's the same thing for the damn Bears. It's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Field goal posts scare the shit out of you guys.
Hey, guys, keep the comments coming. We love it. We love the interaction. We love interacting with you guys as they go. I know sometimes we get to talking and, I throw a comment up and it's 10 or 15 minutes late. I do my best. We're trying to do 20 different things here while I'm controlling the panel.
Trying to keep Soup Boss calm down.
Bjorn wants to know where the Bucks went. Look, man, hey, that's something we – whoo.
Why? What happened?
The one thing that Mike Reeves said to me when I said I'm surprised that people have the Buccaneers so low and they're doubting them, and I get the whole Brady and people think he was a system quarterback. And the one thing he said is the reason why he was down on them is because they didn't have a run game. Well, guess what they went out and got? They went out and got themselves a run game, and they went out and got themselves a pretty damn good run game in Leonard Fournette. And people are like, oh, nobody wanted him. They wouldn't even trade a pick. They wouldn't trade a pick because they wanted to sign him they got him for $1.5 million with a $2 million freaking, incentive-based contract. They got him for $3.5 million less than what they wanted to get him for.
Which just shows, though, if you look at salary cap, because if you look at salary cap numbers, there were a ton of teams that can afford that. It still flies in your face that you act like it was just this aspect of, no, you put him in free agency and it doesn't. It works. But there's something wrong here. There is something wrong that is known inside the NFL, but is not being said about Leonard Fournette. No one would give a 7th grade. Yeah, you did with me last show.
There's certainly something going on behind the scenes for sure. But on the field, this guy is a beast. It's the Antonio Brown syndrome. If it comes out that there's
that's not a guy. Issue, that's not a guy you want to compare to him right now.
No, but look, the Bucks had a hole and they went and filled it with a guy who on the field is a pretty damn good talent. And if he pans out and if he can stay, not be a headache, and if he cannot be all the things that we're assuming that he is because nobody wanted to trade for him, then, the Bucks landed themselves a gem.
It's an upgrade either way, without a shadow of doubt for them. But it just speaks more volumes to me that there was more going on because no one would offer a 6th or 7th round pick. He clears the waivers, and the whole thought process by you was, well, it's because people want to battle for him in free agency. If that was the case, the guy would have gotten what he was going to get in Tampa Bay, if not more, if there was a bidding war. They got him for $1.5 million. They got him for the same type of contract that they got for Cam Newton. And there's a lot of people fighting about the aspect of Cam Newton with that. But, I mean, is it an upgrade? Oh, hell yeah, it's an upgrade for them. Good for them.
Chiefs, not enough Indians for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think that at all. I think Bruce Arians is one of those guys who commands respect in the locker room. And I think he's one of those coaches that will put his foot down. I think everybody knows that there's only one chief. I mean, he's the same guy that went and said, hey, look, Tom Brady's going to get yelled at and cussed out just like the rest of them. So, Look,
watch out. Giselle might go into a meeting and tell Bruce that she doesn't like the way that.
Hey, if I'm Bruce, I'm inviting Giselle to a meeting.
That was the dumbest thing I heard come out this week. That, you know what? I know the Fournette thing is obviously huge for them, and it was a great thing to pick up. But I'm telling you, the underlying that whole Chief versus Indians thing. You want a Chief who acts like an Indian on the field. That is LeSean McCoy. That when they went and got him, that was literally for leadership, not only on that field to help guide young players, but in that locker room. You already have Tom Brady, who's already known as one of the best leaders in the locker room. LeSean McCoy is just Shady is just that, just as well, and he's going to do it so quietly. Yeah. But the effects on the field, I actually think still, even with them getting Fournette, obviously production will come from him. But I still think Shady McCoy signing was far more impactful for that team environment than Fournette.
I loved the Shady McCoy signing. I said that when Reeves was on last week. I said, look, I think the fact that they went out and got Shady McCoy was the thing that put them over the top for me, because he is the prototype quarterback that Tom Brady absolutely loves. He's that guy who can go out in the flat and he could be a check down back, and that's what Tom Brady loves, and that's what Tom Brady needs. But he also needs a Leonard Fournette type guy who can go out there and run the ball for 4 or 5 plays a series. And that's what Leonard Fournette brings you. Joshua CV and I agree. It was a steal. He's not an elite back, but that was a damn good grab and a damn good price.
I think if you had flipped the signings and they had gotten Fournette first, I think a lot of people signed Shady would have said, "Oh my, well, obviously they brought him in to guide Fournette more." I think that would have been the story. And I think that. So that's not being talked about, but I think that's the benefit too, is that they got Fournette when they already had a guy that can be his mentor.
That's true. That's very true. Can he stay healthy is another question they need to add. And look, nobody can ever predict health. That's the one thing you can't predict. Can he stay healthy? Sure, maybe. But look, the guy is injury prone, and I call it, when I hear injury prone, the first player that I think of, and I know you love him, but the first player I think of is Gronk. Anytime that you touch Gronk, there's an injury. Like I love Gronk. I think Gronk's one of the greatest tight ends to play the game, but he couldn't stay healthy.
State that differently. Anytime anyone spear shots him to the kneecap, or the guy would drag people across the field. Part of it was his own fault because he wouldn't go down. And the other part was most of his injuries were straight, hard shots. He's like a Brock Lesnar. He's a top-heavy dude. That's why he had to lose some top weight. But
Bjorn says, same with Gronk. Can he stay healthy? Look, so I heard breaking news. Gronk snored too loudly and is out with concussion week 1.
No, geez. This is going to be a great joke. Your dad jokes are awesome. By the way, the Raptors to storm back 10 down are now up by 2 in the third quarter over the Celtics. So.
We said they're good enough to steal 1 or 2. Well, you said they're good enough to steal 1 or 2. I said the Celtics are going to sweep. So and
Cantor's writhing in pain. Looks like his shoulder's banged up.
Oh, Jesus. Well, hey, look. So you guys keep chiming in. We're going to keep staying with it. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get into more of your comments, and we will also get into some baseball talk. We have some sad news out of the baseball world yesterday. We will get to that here in just a moment, so stay with us. What's going on, Triple Shot Sports family? This is Brandon Combs, host of the best podcast on the planet. That's the Triple Shot Sports Podcast. Be sure to join myself and Soup Boss Chad Lounder live for 2 hours. Yes, I said 2 hours every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 7 p.m. Central on the RTF Sports Network Facebook page and YouTube. And if you miss any part of the show, you can hear us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on We Drive Home at 5 p.m. Eastern on rtfsportsnetwork.com.
Reason I rhyme, big spot in my season. I'm tired of y'all eating. I'm just tired of me starving. Actually, I'm being honest. I'm just tired of being complex. I'm gonna rip a new hole in your whole operation. I run out of patience and run out of pages to write that I run out of pages. I jump on the mic and go nuts on the stage. It's so fucking amazing and nothing amazes you motherfuckers anymore. Cause my cadence is devastated. Say don't ever say my name. The hell out my way. Got the devil in my head. The devil's in my brain. Like whoa. No. Not gonna slow the flow down so you still folks will know what I'm saying until you replay this shit. shit over and over. I'm only a minute in, already said more than you say in one of your albums. Wow, standing in the ring and ready to get it in. Let me know who want a problem. I ain't never read a problem.
All right, we are back. And so last night, yesterday morning, actually, some sad news out of the baseball world as it was announced that Tom Seaver had passed away. Tom Seaver was 75 and definitely one of the top pitchers of all time. A very sad time for the Mets organization, a very sad time for the baseball world. This guy had one of probably, he had the greatest 5 or 6 year stretch of any pitcher of all time. The guy was absolutely amazing.
Mid-70s, early mid-70s, yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. So sad news there. That brought me up to start thinking, like, where does he rank all time for pitchers? Where do you have him?
I don't know, man, because I looked at where I would list, and you look at his accomplishments and everything he did, and the problem for me was just sticking him. I mean, I think you could put him at. Some people put him as high as 3, 4, 5. Some people put him in around 20. I think the aspect that you can say is he might have given birth to what power pitching is. That real ability to hit the triple digits on the radar gun, to understand how to use your body to the full extent, to put every bit of force in it, to scare a batter at the plate, so that when you threw then an off-speed pitch, it looked even worse to the batter because they didn't know if you were coming with that 100-mile-per-hour fastball. He really gave birth to that aspect. That's why, I mean, he had there was 4 out of 5 years straight, or 5 out of 6, that he had all the strikeout. He was the strikeout leader, Cy Youngs, everything like that, because it was something new that the league really hadn't seen. Not to say there weren't pitchers that could do it, but he really gave way to the narrative that you can go out there. So if you say, hey, who are the best power pitchers of all time, he could just be considered the godfather and get the honorary top spot just for creating that. All time, I don't know, man. I mean, is he a top 10 pitcher by those stats and everything like that? It is. But then when you look at some of the greatest pitchers in baseball, I mean, God, put your hand in there and pick out one of those marbles, and you're going to get a dominant pitcher. That's what it is. He belongs in the bucket of all the greats. And there's about 20 to 30 in there that if you pick one out, no matter what, you're going to get a superstar. So that's the way I look at it. What's his number? I don't know. Does he belong to be in that bucket? Hell yeah, he does.
Yeah, I have him ranked 3 on my list. When I was, I did a pitchers, top 5 pitchers of all time list a while back, and I had Tom Seaver at number 3. Look, the guy put together the best prime of anybody career. Prime, if you take just a pitcher's prime years of a career, he was hard to touch. I mean, he didn't lose, and he struck everybody out. He was phenomenal pitcher. So it was a sad day for baseball, sad day for for the Seaver family, sad day for the Mets organization, and so
weird little stat about him. Obviously known as a Met, where most of his career was played. But do you know his very last year where he played?
The White Sox, wasn't it? No, he went back to the.
No, his very last year he played was with the Boston Red Sox in 1986 in the 86 Bill Buckner World Series. So he actually lost.
I thought he signed in 87 so he could retire as a Met after the Red Sox.
Oh, well, maybe he might have done that. But those re-signed to retire, that's not what I mean. Like actual playing, he played with the Sox in 86 and was part of the Sox team that faced the Mets in the famous Bill Buckner World Series. So
yeah,
kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, he played for the White Sox right after the Mets, and that was a huge thing in New York. I mean, people were pissed when they let go of Tom Seaver and when he became a White Sox. And a funny story is that he came back to New York and got his 300th win in Yankee Stadium as a member of the White Sox. So that was another thing that people were highly upset about. So, sad day. And it's one of those things. I know a lot of people are mad about. They say it was because of COVID, but he also had dementia, and some people are, they don't want it to be him to be linked to COVID related death or whatever.
Who cares?
Regardless of the case,
just respect
died.
the man's memory. Like, who cares about that stuff? Like come to find reasons to share the memory. We always talk about when people pass, it should be a celebration of their life. Don't let the aspect of COVID mar the ability to celebrate the man's life, who, by the way, was a pretty decent commentator after his playing career too. Not amazing, but he was a pretty good commentator too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so getting to some actual baseball, yeah, the Rays go out and take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, man. Yeah, I bet you're happy over there.
Yeah, I'll take it. Do I still put money on the Yankees today? Yeah, I'll still put money on the Yankees today, because at some point you think all these injuries on the Rays are going to catch up to them. The Yankees will get all their players back. We still have about 25 games-ish. But it's starting to get close. We're a 4-game lead or a 3.5-game lead is starting to be a pretty comfortable thing. So kudos to the Rays, who I said were a damn good team anyways, and I put them in the playoffs because I knew they were good. But again, like we said last show, if you told me, hey, Chad, 30 games in, the Rays are going to have 9 pitchers down, I would have probably taken them out of the playoffs. I would have been like, oh, well, they're good. They're not that good. And oh, no, they're just going off like nuts and taking over the AL East. So that's another thing, though. You got to be a good team. You got to take advantage of things when you should be. We joke about it, even though we like to rag on each other at the same time. But you got to win the games you should be winning. They're loaded with injuries, and yet they go out there knowing the Yankees are loaded with injuries. Instead of using it as an excuse, like most, no offense, I'm not ragging on New Yorkers, even though I normally do, but I hear a lot of it. Well, if Judge or if this, the Rays have more injuries than you guys do, just because their names aren't Judge, and they're going out there and saying we're still going to beat you, and that's what they're doing. They got I didn't even realize it was 5 games. I thought it was 4. 5-game lead. They've played 38 games, so 22 games to go with a 5-game lead. Damn, that's impressive. That's absolutely impressive.
Yeah, look, the Rays are looking really good. They're looking really hot. They look like they're just a better team right now than the Yankees. Injuries aside, look, all teams overcome injuries. I mean, it's part of the game, and it's what you have to do. Is what championship teams are made of. I remember in 2016 when the Cubs, game 2 of the season, we lost Schwarber, and that was supposed to be a big blow, but they overcome, you know what I mean? And you do the things that you need to do to win, and it's next guy up. Until he comes back and he's healthy, you need your next guy to be able to perform. That's what depth is. That's what your farm system's for, and that's what drafting is for.
Unless you were the luckiest World Series winners in all of the history of baseball, the 2013 Boston Red Sox, which of course I celebrated, they had 0 injuries that whole season and were the benefit of one of the luckiest seasons in terms of injury issues. Like, there literally was no one that went on injured reserve. Like, it was insane. It was crazy, and that's why. So, but you need to have that. But with this shortened season, it's more of an impact that if you have a lot of players go down, you pretty much are at a bust. And instead, they're like, nah, we'll just be sitting in here just behind the bushes, behind the Dodgers right now, just getting ready to jump past them now that we're leaving the Yankees in our dust. So
did you see any of the benches clearing incident that they had in the second game?
Yeah, I watched some Twitter feeds and some videos on it, but I didn't see the whole aspect of it obviously being wrapped up in a lot of the stuff with the Thunder down here. So I haven't looked at the depth of what was the cause incidents, because watching too much pinstripes when it's not against the Red Sox makes me want to vomit. So I was just like, screw it.
The Yankees and Rays, ever since Aaron Boone took over, 14 Rays hitters have been hit by pitch. And so that's a big thing to the Rays. They feel like they're coming after you.
Aaron Boone, he's a freaking asshole.
Yeah, and then you got some of the guys who they had 2 Yankees that got hit on Monday, and then on Tuesday, Chapman comes into the game and throws 101 mile-an-hour fastball at Brousseau's head. And look, I say it all the time, man. If you throw 101 mile an hour fastball at a guy's head, he should be able to come after you with his bat and not face any repercussions.
Yep.
You are throwing 101 mile an hour fastball at a man's head. You're going to end his career if you make a connection with that.
You're going to end that person's life. And it's why I get so heated. I don't give two craps if the Houston Astros rolled out in this empty stadium with 45 trash cans and beat the shit out of them. The second you throw 101 mile per hour at another man's head, you're worse. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm so
even
like
days,
that's technically not even cheating. It's just you hit a batter, and it's
all throughout baseball. When you wanted to police the game, what did you do? You hit a guy in his back or in his butt. That's what it was. You hit him right in the damn butt, and that I'm fine with. That I'm okay with. I have no problems with that whatsoever. If that's what you want to do, fine. But do not throw at another man's. And then Major League Baseball, they're just asking for problems. You give Joe Kelly an 8-game suspension.
Yeah, that's insane.
And you give Aroldis Chapman a 3-game suspension?
3.
That is a joke.
Now, without a doubt, you and I argued about this back when that happened. But Joe Kelly had zero control whatsoever. He shouldn't have been doing that, period, because he could have hurt someone. They're saying it's based on his previous record, which he does have the Joe Kelly Fight Club. That originated in Boston. It wasn't even the Dodgers. But that's the thing. Like a 8-game suspension compared to a 3-game suspension in a shortened season is insane. It's absolutely insane. It's
I said, Chapman has been suspended multiple times for throwing at players intentionally.
Yep.
So he's got the rap sheet too. And then what did they do to the Astros coach when he taunted a player and caused a bench clean brawl? They gave him 25 games. 25 games. And all he did was say, "Hey, come here and start he started a fight, and yes, he deserved his suspension. But Aroldis Chapman, to me, what he did is way more egregious.
You can't. No. Listen, they need. And it's this shortened season. There's no fans. You need your money. And you and I have talked about it. How did baseball come back? It was even before the Sosa McGuire home runs. It was the success of the New York Yankees in the late '90s that brought baseball back. That's their baby. If you make it where they don't have a chance to come back and win this division, you're going to lose out on a lot of money. Where you don't have it flowing in a million other places. They got to do it.
And they're not winning a whole lot right now. So the games that they are winning, they really need Chapman in there to close it out for them. And baseball just said, all right, cool. Throw 101 miles an hour at your head. 3 games, chill out, and come back and try to help the Yankees come back. And that's garbage. It's absolute garbage. He at the minimum, he should have had at least a 10-game suspension. At the very minimum.
Match Joe Kelly's. I think you match Joe Kelly's because you want to set a precedence because they were trying to say why the 8-game suspension was appropriate for Joe Kelly. And I know a lot of us had that back and forth. And I thought, well, he still appeals and he should still get 4 to 5 because nonetheless, I don't care. Throwing a hard ball at 100 miles per hour at anyone's head in about 60 feet, you don't understand. It's a blink of an eye decision of whether or not you're going to swing. And when the ball then starts coming at your head, your brain has to find a way to all of a sudden alter. Catching the ball, when I thought a curve was coming and the pitcher all of a sudden messed it up on me and would throw a fastball, my brain as a catcher, it took it, and I would get him slammed off my arm. It would bounce wrong. If it was the other way, I'd get hit in the crotch. Like you're demanding it. But if you want to prove that the decision for Joe Kelly was right, match the suspension. Say the same thing for Chapman, 8 games.
And then they just go, that's going to be a 1-game suspension for saying what he said 2 minutes after the incident happens. Look, you can't suspend a manager for sticking up for his players. He wasn't wrong. That's a product of bad coaching. That's
At least he stuck up for his players.
Yeah, he's doing what he's supposed to do as a manager, and you're going to suspend him for that. But you're only going to give Aroldis Chapman 3 games for almost. You could almost argue, and I hate the argument, but you can argue that when a pitcher does that could be attempted murder.
Yeah,
like you're trying. Like there are players in this game that have been hit in the head and it's ended their career. Look at Giancarlo Stanton a few years back. Remember when he had to have his face rearranged?
Yep.
It was like, man, it's so stupid. And
there are leagues, but obviously I hate using the word bush league, but there are leagues that in the 80s, guys would do this out of anger, and they'd hit people and they would hurt them and make it where they couldn't work and everything. And they would not only file charges against the other player, they'd sue the leagues and run them out for these semi-pro-ish type of leagues, local leagues out of it. But, obviously you have to now write in rules where you won't take action or anything against it. But you telling me, I don't care if I sign something. If a guy gets pissed and he decides to throw with all he's got and it goes right at my head and hits me, that's an intent to hurt me. And when I caught, there were two things that would happen when we knew it was coming. I would look down so that I could talk, but I wasn't making it look like I was any threat. Like I'd pretend I was adjusting my mask and I'd say, watch your ass, which was my way, not to say like, yeah, you better watch out, but this next pitch is coming for your ass. So watch it. So actually to tell them to turn, you want them to almost turn into it so it hits them square in the biggest fat part of a man's body, their ass, outside of their beer gut. And I'd say, watch your ass. And at the same time, I would make it very clear that I would start middle and I'd put the glove so it was going right towards the hip area of the player. If your pitcher can't hit that, and when they would throw it, even if it was a fastball, there was a couple miles per hour off of it because they would demand control. If your pitcher can't do that and you have the crap that's going on, you deserve the highest repercussion. Yeah. Because that's like saying I want to be a knife thrower and just going up and just throwing it as hard as you can and having no control. You can end someone's life, let alone their career.
Just a few days earlier, I was watching the Cubs and the Reds, and it wasn't the same thing. But what happened was a pitcher, and you could see it right after. When it's an accident, it's an accident, and I understand accidents happen. So Rizzo got a ball thrown over his head, but it went way over his head. And then the pitcher right after, as you watch the replay, as soon as he releases that ball, he looks down at his hand and wipes it on his pants. Like he wasn't trying to throw Rizzo. And then the next inning, they hit a Reds player in the behind. And then, Votto started yelling, and then, players came out of the dugout. The umpire looked like he was having fun. As players were coming out of the dugout, he's like this. And then he's like, nope, you're gone. Okay, you're gone. Oh, you're going to come past too. You're like, he threw out 4 guys in a row and it looked like he was just having a blast.
Yep.
But that's the way you handle things. If you feel like they went after your guy's head, you go back. You don't go after the next guy's head. You go after his butt. And that's what you do. To me, some of these, we talk all the time about, certain unwritten rules and certain things you do and you don't do. And one of the things, I don't understand how all the unwritten rules that you don't like, how going headhunting is not against an unwritten rule somewhere along the way. I just don't.
No kidding. If you want unwritten rules in game, how about not doing something that is purposely going to the extent to kill people? That's why, to me, Bounty Gate with the Saints is by and far a larger cheating scandal than anything else in the NFL that's ever happened, because they were getting paid. Yeah. There were dollar signs put on the body parts of major players in order to not only hurt them, but to literally do everything. Like, you want to hit a player so hard it jars them, they come off, because you're playing the game of football. You know that's the chance you take. But a clean hit, that you put so much force in it, you knock the wind out of them, they're afraid to come back on the field.
Yeah.
Not an intentional hit where your goal is to break bones and injure people. And that's disgusting to me. It shouldn't be an unwritten rule. It should be straight out a written rule. Right. You don't throw at players' heads. And if you do, it's a 10-game suspension, period.
Alan says, go Cardinals.
I know it did. Oh, boy. And we did our fantasy draft. So all I got to do is beat your dad. There's $25 coming your way, buddy.
Speaking of written rules, sorry, Alan, you're not getting that money because he's not beating me. So speaking of written rules, that I started thinking about written rules that need to be changed. And there's actually quite a few that I think should be changed. But I've got 3 really big ones. And I don't know if you agree. Maybe you have a different list than I do. But the first thing, and the one that absolutely needs to change, and it should have been changed 50 years ago, 100 years ago, when baseball was first implemented and umpires first came into the damn game, is that an umpire behind the plate on a check swing should automatically have to ask one of the baseline umpires on the swing. Absolutely. There are so many times where I watch a player go and he doesn't go around, but the home plate umpire is saying, yes, you went around, that's a strike. you're out of here. And then the player argues, and then the umpire wants to get, because there's nobody who has a bigger ego on a field than a Major League Baseball umpire. And so they start getting questioned, they go back and forth, but they absolutely, because your job as a home plate umpire is to watch the ball across the plate and see where the ball's at. How can you be watching the ball across the plate and watch the batter swing the ball?
Yeah. Well, I disagree with you in the aspect that the point of the home plate umpire isn't just to do that. Now, of course, it takes a lot of skill set, and that's why they switch them out so they're not just focused in one way. You have to be able to see the field in different ways, blah, blah, blah. But
who's got the better angle on a check swing?
Well, hold on. When you're at the home plate and you let them judge, you're trying to trust in what they're judging, okay? That's why balls and strikes, you have to trust in what they're judging. On a ball and strike, you can get mad at them, but you can't go over there because technically the guy sitting behind second base could potentially have a better angle because that's the way we see it as fans. We sit there and go, how could you call that a ball or how could you call that a strike? Because we're looking that way. You don't even have the chance to do that. The only aspect of the rule that I think should be changed is that a catcher can immediately ask one of the linesmen, one of the line refs, their thought. If they think there was a swing on the check and it's not, they check, it's fine. The home plate umpire immediately goes to them, right? What it should be is it should be equal. Is if you swing and you get called a strike and you don't think it was, you as the batter should be able to immediately point to that line ref to get clarification. And if that line ref says, no, it was safe when the ump called them out, then you give it to them. So I don't think that it needs to be eliminated. It shouldn't be an automatic because that will take way too long in the game. Way too long. How long does it
take to point and have somebody say safer out? It doesn't take. It takes 2 seconds.
Because they trust 90% of the time they trust, but if you put that rule in, you're going to make it where they're constantly going back and forth with the two. Just make it where that if the batter wants to question it,
there's not that many check swings in the course of one game that it's going to alter it that much. You get maybe 5, maybe 6 check swings in a game at the most, and I think that's pushing it. So I don't think that it changed, but it absolutely alters the game. Another thing that needs to be changed that I have on here is we need to have automated strike zones. I'm sick of umpires behind the plate having. You have in the course of a series, you have
take over our precious game.
But you have 3 or 4 different strike zones that you have to adjust to as a hitter or as a pitcher. And in either way, the strike zone should be the same. The strike zone is the strike zone. It's not what you perceive the strike zone to be. The strike zone is the strike zone. And you absolutely you alter the course of a game if you have a bad zone. You just do. You alter an at bat. If you call, I watched it the other day I was watching the Braves and the Yankees, and the umpire had a wide strike zone where he was calling everything on the outside corner. Now, in a 3-2 count, if there's a pitch that's 6 inches off the outside corner, I have to swing because I don't know what you're calling a ball or a strike anymore. And it's ridiculous. Tennis has the ability when they go to their replay. You ever watch a tennis match?
And I watch them all the time.
And it comes down and you watch the ball, and it goes to within like a tenth of a centimeter. Like,
that's what Bill
Belichick. There's no reason why Major League Baseball can't go to automated strike zones. It needs to happen.
Bill Belichick actually quoted tennis when he was talking about Bill Belichick is the one that started the conversation with putting cameras in the corner cones there of the end zones. I wonder why. To be able to put it. It must really suck that you get the benefit as a fan to see what you
wonder why
see.
The pylons get set up during practice.
Oh man, here we go. Your jokes suck today. But no, it's just an aspect. The technology is there. It's just like the whole aspect with people thinking there should be a microchip in the football because to get the exact. Why not? Why can't we? And you brought it up perfectly. If you watch a professional tennis match, let's face it, tennis is not bringing in the amount of money that the 4 major American sports are. It doesn't even bring in as much money as the NHL does. And yet you're telling me that tennis can, like what you said, right up to the microscopic millimeter, they can literally see exactly where that ball, not just where it hit, but a tennis ball when it hits with such force flattens. So you'll see the shape of the oval. They can do it, but we can't do it in the 4 major sports. Like it's crazy.
And there would be no complaints from either side, hitter or pitcher. I mean, there'll probably be complaints, but you can't really argue it because it's
harder
the same
to argue
for everybody. It's the same exact zone for everybody, and that's the way it should be, and they need to absolutely do that. Yep. That being said, on the replay side of things, I think that's another rule that needs to be adjusted. Replay's original intent in Major League Baseball was for foul ball home runs, for plays that were extremely close, but, like going down the first baseline, bang, bang. It really came after that botched perfect game in Detroit, where the pitcher was throwing a perfect game, and then he had the out at first base, and he was out by like a full step and a half, and the umpire called him safe. And that the next year replay came in, and that's what it was designed for. But it's not designed for, you made the tag at second, you held the tag on, and as he was sliding into the base, he was already safe. And as he's sliding, his hand comes off, and before his foot goes back on, he's a half inch above the base. That type of stuff just is not what, it was intended for. He was safe because he got his hand in before the tag. He's on the bag, and as he's sliding, his momentum takes him over. He doesn't come off the bag, but his clothing comes off the bag. And now you're going to call a guy out. That stuff needs to stop in baseball because that's not what
that's just a dumb, it literally comes down to why pass interference challenges are gone after 1 year in the NFL. There's one way of being able to set in things to be able to make things work. It's another thing with the people behind the camera making the decision. Listen, what you just explained was literally a user error. There's an instant replay that allows people to be able to make better judgments, and you just still have these friggin' retards that are, I'm sorry, that word's a terrible thing to use. You've got these morons that watch what everyone else watches and look at it and go, and it's what you talked about. It's not just baseball. I think referees in all sports get too emotionally into the games because they, in some way, are fans. I think if you have these type of instant replays, you should be doing it at a home center where someone is just watching at league headquarters somewhere. They make the non-partial, non-emotional, logical decision. Because what happens is it's not that the instant replay aspect was wrong. It's the fact that the person that made the judgment watching it was wrong.
And why don't they have the same thing set up like hockey does? Hockey's got one guy dedicated to each game in the NHL.
Right.
Why doesn't baseball have the same thing? Why do we have to call them and say, hey, take a look at, and then you only have the same camera views as you're coming with the same angle from the TV angles. Like you should have, like hockey does, you should have every angle that they have in the stadium at your disposal. I don't understand. You're a multi-billion-dollar organization. And to say, to not have the technology in place to do the things that you can do, I don't understand it. I don't understand how you even go to a replay and still make the wrong call sometimes. Yep. That's another one that kills me in baseball. Very rarely do you see it in hockey where they make the wrong call after they go to replay.
Yep.
Same thing with football. Very rarely do you see somebody who was clearly out of bounds get called inbounds, even though replay shows he was out of bounds. It has happened, but it's very rare.
The words you said is, I don't understand why in baseball is literally the precedent for every issue with baseball, because that's what we're dealing with, and it's what we've beaten the hell out of, is that baseball is looking at becoming the number 4 sport in the next 5 to 10 years if they don't change stuff, because they're still old fashioned and old natured. It's just the way it is, and it's got to change. I got one for you that is always driven me nuts, and I feel it's terrible. And I actually think, especially in times like March Madness, it's been a big issue. But the possession arrow in college basketball has to go. I don't understand why you let something that's considered a tie-up or a tie between two teams get decided by what the box back here says, and quote unquote it's even because it flips to the Exactly. Like that makes zero sense. If it's a tie-up and if it's both teams are evenly put in a place, jump ball, just like the NBA has it. Like, get rid of that. To me, the possession arrow, it needs to get rid of. Another one that I bring up a lot, and I hear, I don't hear it a lot outside, like in the sports world, but it's always been an issue to me when I bring it up during games. People are like, "That's a good thought." How come offsetting penalties aren't weighed with the difference? So if I get
time nerd,
what's up, buddy?
We're talking about written rules in sports that need to be changed. So chime in. Let me know if there's any written rules. I said umps need to ask for check swings. They need to ask the base umps. We need automated strike zone, and replay needs to be adjusted. And so far, Supos has said that we need to change the possession arrow in college basketball, which I agree with as well. If you guys have any, definitely chime in. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Offsetting penalties to me are always weird because almost every time that they offset, and especially in football, in that aspect, it's usually where it is. Offsetting penalties, replay the down. Makes no sense to me because usually one team has far more yards in the penalty than the other team. Or there's been crazy plays where it's like one team has 3 penalties, the other team has 1, but therefore they offset and you replay it down. Hold on. You've got 45 yards worth of penalties over here, and you've got 5 over here. It should just be 40 yards. It should be the difference between the two. So I've never understood that aspect because you can literally have a basic small infraction offset a guy 50 yards down the field, like literally face masking and tackling a guy before the ball gets to him for pass interference, and that's somehow an equal thing. I've never gotten
the thing. Like if you come off the line and you see the hold or you see the flag come out, and you know that penalty is going against the other team, you go out and they're throwing a bomb and you're beat. Just go and tackle the guy.
Yeah,
because you're going to offset and you're going to get to replay the down.
Exactly. Yeah, so, it makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Definitely, go with, take the difference, or take the higher penalty and let the higher penalty ride. Even I'm okay with that too. I mean, if you, that's the one thing in the NFL that drives me nuts is that referees pick and choose when to call play, because really they could call holding on every down. I mean, there's almost always a hold at the line of scrimmage, always, and they could call it, but then they pick and choose when to go, and they usually pick like the worst times in the world to call it.
I would argue with you that you have something like that in every single sport, though. Hockey, basketball, you see. I mean, in the Thunder game last night, they went in the third period where they were calling every bit of contact, and then in the fourth quarter, it was they were letting them play hardcore. It was so different. In baseball, a home field plate umpire will call it straight to a tee, and then all of a sudden, a ball that he's called a ball all night, he'll call it a strike. All of a sudden, he gets to pick and choose. So. Yeah, it's a hard thing.
I'm a hockey ref. I've also umped baseball, so trust me. I get how hard it is. One of the things that we talk about as refs in hockey in the locker room is to don't look at the clock or the score. Doesn't matter what the clock.
You should take the emotions out of it.
The thing that we call especially in youth hockey, man, the parents are just the idiots in the stands, because that's what we call them. They all think that they are the better referees and they could do your job too, even though 95% of them couldn't even skate anyway. That's why they're watching from the stands. But
they're definitely annoying. But the funny thing is they're no different than you and I when we're sitting at home watching this crap on TV. We do the same thing. It's just embarrassing to children because you should be teaching them.
The other thing that I get from a referee or an umpire standpoint is that you have a different view of things. You have your determination as to what's a flop and what's a trip, or what's a hook and what's a good stick play.
Right.
There's all sorts of different ways for things to go. Part-time nerd chimes in and says they're just mad because their kid sucks. Look, I tell people this all the time. There is nothing worse than a coach in youth hockey that is coaching their game like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. And there is nothing worse than a parent who is yelling at their kid or screaming at the other team because they think that their kid is getting signed by the NHL tomorrow. It drives me absolutely insane. There are no scouts in the stands at these, pee-wee hockey games. There are no scouts in the stands, even at, up until you get to the high school level. They're just not. They're not there, and they're not watching you guys. They're not watching. They're definitely not watching you coach. That's not what they're there for. They're not watching you coach. So just, man. And I'll tell you right now, I've coached and I've reffed in lots of youth sports, and I love youth sports. I love coaching. I love everything about, teaching the kids how to play the games and watching them grow. That's my favorite thing, is watching a kid And it's not even the really good kids that you have on your team, because those kids are talented and they're going to be talented their entire lives. It's that kid that you always have to put in right field so he doesn't hurt himself, but then gets his first hit of the season on the last game of the year or something. Those are the moments as a coach that you absolutely positively love. And that's what I love about youth sports. But the parents are just, the parents drive me nuts.
I coach flag football leagues, soccer leagues, t-ball. I coach basketball, so I coach all of them except for hockey. And I've literally have a very when I get my teams on their very first practice, I always do a powwow with the teams and the kids, and to kind of put forth to them some expectations of what I'm looking forward to and what I want from them and everything. And then I have a powwow with the parents. I make it very clear. You will hinder your child's growth if they look up into the stands and see a vein popping out of your neck and you acting like an absolute jackass. I want you to be the biggest cheerleaders, not only for your kid, but for the other kids as well. And when someone that you know, because we're all going to watch it and we can tell the ones that are needing to grow, when they come up to bat or when they get the ball, I want you cheering your hardest. You need to be the best cheerleaders. Anyone that ends up embarrassing their child or another child during the season, I will ask that they do not come back.
Part-time Nerd says, I'll go and ask parents to be quiet. Let me coach your kid. Look, one thing that I started doing as a coach in youth sports is I drew up contracts for my players and I drew up contracts for my parents. And my contracts for my players are always the same. Look, we're not going to disrespect the other team. We're not going to disrespect our teammates. We're always going to play hard. We're going to listen. We're going to do the things that we need to do to learn the game and grow. And then on the parent side of things, I have 2 rules.
It says, don't be an ass and shut the hell up. Sit down.
Cheer on your kids is always rule number 1. And rule number 2 is if I interfere with your coaching, I will take over your duties for the day. Because, look, us coaches that are coaching, especially in youth sports, we're doing it and we're taking time out of our days to do it. 9 times out of 10, we have kids that are on the team. That's probably, to be honest with you, that one of my, and I'll tell you this story, my biggest achievement as a coach was also my best dad moment as a coach, because my Alan, who always says go Cardinals, and Junior were playing on the same team, and we were in the semifinals to head to the championship game. And Allen hit a single to tie the game in the 7th inning. And then Brandon Jr. came up and drove him in with the game-winning double. And then they were just mobbing him at the plate. And, oh, man, that was – every time I talk about it, man, I get chills. And it's just always just a cool moment. It was one of those moments I'll never forget for the rest of my life. Allen went on to play in the All-Stars that year. We had a good run there too. And it was just a lot of fun. I love coaching. I love youth sports, man. It's a lot of fun. I go out with my girlfriend's nephews to take them out to the field, and we'll go out there. We went out there last Sunday, and I'm always telling them, they're always like, no, you work a lot, and then you have your podcast. I'm like, look, if there's a chance for me to get away and come to the field, man, I'm all for it. I want to help the kids. I want to talk. It's something that it's fun to watch them grow. Bjorn chimed in and says, can the Celtics win the NBA? Yeah. I think they're the best team in the NBA right now.
The thing with the Celtics, though, off to the side, is that I said before the bubble even started, the team that no one's going to talk about that everyone needs to be prepared to watch are the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat, to me, are the only team that actually scare me with the Celtics, more than the Bucks, more than the Raptors. So it's funny that there's a chance, nothing's guaranteed, but there's a chance that's going to end up being where the Celtics were my team and the Heat, I said, were the team that no one's talking about. We may have them being the representatives of who will go in for the East.
Yeah.
My final one, by the way, I want to get on the unwritten because this is one that I wanted to see your reaction to. I hate with a passion in the NHL teams getting a point for losing in overtime. It is the most blue ribbon bullshit excuse of sports of participation that I've ever seen.
Do you know why that was implemented?
I don't care why it was implemented. It is
terrible. The Players Association.
I don't care, which is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care who cried for it. I don't care who wanted it. You're telling me you lost a game and you want points for it? Like,
the NFL was always before they went to the overtime and then the shootout rule, they always had the tie, as you remember. And a tie got you 1 point. So then they said, well, we're going to start making you play overtime. And teams were like, so you're going to cost us a point even though we tied? And they said, look, we want overtime. It'd be better for the fans. It'd be better for the sport. There's always going to be a winner. And the players' union said, no. And they said, well, what if we still give you a point for the tie?
It's stupid.
And then the NHL players' union was like, okay. Like,
you do. You do an overtime, and then you do a shootout, which shootouts are fantastic. And you do the shootout until you do 5 rounds of the shootout. And then if you're still tied, then it's 1 by 1 round at a time until one team wins. And that's it.
Is it any coincidence that rule came in at the same time that we started doing the everybody gets a trophy thing in youth sports?
God, it's terrible. It's literally what it is.
I agree. I agree.
You watch a team skate off the rink dejected, but they get a point that sometimes vaults them ahead of the team they're tied with. Like, you lost a game and you get to go ahead of the team that you were tied. I don't get it.
Bjorn says no worse than one of the other coaches, the asshole parent. Yeah. Well, I've had a couple of those coaches, man. It is worse when they're the coach for sure, because they're not teaching their kids anything at that point. We had a parent give us shit last year, so me and my assistant handed him the lineup card and told him to handle it. He walked away like a dog just got caught going in the litter box.
I've never had a dog go in the litter box. It's the weirdest, connection I think I've ever heard.
The funniest thing that I ever did to a parent was I was coaching, or I was reffing a tournament for a high school hockey tournament up in New Hampshire, and so I'm skating, and I made a call, and it was the right call. He didn't like the call. He got pulled down, and I called the penalty shot, and it was the semifinals of this tournament, and it was the right call, and he had the kid beat by at least a good step. And so the parent starts yelling at me and screaming, and then he stands up and he climbs up on the boards. You suck, blah, 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 blah. So I skate past him, and I take off my whistle off my fingers, and I reach up as I'm skating past, and I try to hand it to him. He's like, oh, I don't want that. I was like, yeah, you're damn right you don't want that, because you probably couldn't even skate. Now sit back down and let me make my calls. That guy, man, he came up to me after that tournament. And he's still yelling, you guys, blah, blah, blah. I took out my wallet, and I grabbed my USA Hockey reffing license, and I said, here. I said, you can come. It's one 8-hour class that you have to take, and then you have to do a skating assessment. You can make your own calls. He was like, oh, I don't got time for it. All right, well, then sit down and shut up and let me call my game.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts.
Yeah, that's why I make it very clear at the beginning of the season. I huddle up all the parents. I make it clear. And I've luckily have not had to kick out a single parent, because I try to ensure that it's almost like you have to coach the parents just as much. And I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, if they can get a reality check and remember that they're supposed to be grown adults and this is supposed to be enjoyable, they end up actually being the best type of cheerleaders. I've had teams where the parents all of a sudden create like tunnels for the kids running through, and I didn't tell them to do that, and they just did it on their own. And you see that camaraderie, and that's another thing. A lot of in today's world compared to when I was growing up, back in my day, parents didn't have cell phones they stared at and all that stuff, so they got to know each other. And you would go after the games, and you would go eat at a restaurant or go get ice cream or something. And now they don't. They're staring at their phones, and then and now they're getting together. I did have one parent though where I coached his son in basketball, and his son was a lanky, tall kid, and he wasn't very coordinated. But man, he just wanted to do so well. His younger brother would come sometimes in the beginning of practices and shoot around with us, and his brother was, you could just tell he was athletically gifted. He knew what he was doing, and his dad was just constantly on him, like he could. Yeah. And then I watched him get on his younger son, and he was always praising him. And so I had to I pulled him to the side halfway through a season one time, and kind of just had a heart to heart. And I'm like, this is a really uncomfortable conversation for me, but I need you to understand what you're doing to Will. Right. And showed it to him. He had no idea though. So in talking to him about that, all of a sudden he became one of the biggest cheerleaders. His wife actually came up to me and goes, man, this is the best thing that's ever happened. I've actually enjoyed being around my husband. I'm like, wow, I just became a marriage counselor just like that. Yeah.
Mike
it sucks myself when it comes to relationships.
Mike Fink is a blog writer here for the RTF Sports Network. Says it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Grantland Rice, never been more relevant to youth sports.
It's how you play the game, but you also play. You also. I've always been. I skate on the line with that because I want my kids to desire to win, not to win to think that they're the best. I want it's a contest. It's a sport. I want them to win, so I don't put no matter whether you win or lose. I say no. We're gonna work hard because I want you guys to all get better. I want you to be better players. I want you to be more skilled. But at the same time, while you're getting better, I want you guys to try to find a way to win the game. Right. But when they lose, I don't get down on them in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So
no, absolutely not. You tell them when they make a mistake. You let them know that they made a mistake, and you move on, and you hope that they learn from it. That's
part of Boston's up by 2 with half a second left, and Taco Fall just entered the game.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's literally in there. The Raptors have an inbound pass.
I was about to tell you that the Flyers were down 4-3 with 10 minutes to go in the third.
They just tied it.
They just tied it 4-4.
They just tied it. Yep.
So, yeah. So, I'm sure it was the right call.
Toronto just hit a 3-pointer to win the game.
You're out of here. Really?
Yep. They went all the way across court over Taco's hands to hit a guy in the corner, and he caught and shot in a half a second and won the game. They're probably going to review it, but I mean, he pretty much caught it into his body. So when he didn't catch it out here and brought it down, he caught it into his body. So he was already going up in the shooting motion. 3 to win the game.
So Bjorn says this one is for Soup Boss. How do you feel about the NBA pushing their political agenda? You want to answer that one or no?
I can in just in a minor manner. I won't go deep in details, but I have this conversation with a lot of people, and heading up Sports Soup, I make it very clear I don't want politics in it, because what happens is that the line of politics being attached to it starts to get pulled away, and then it only becomes about politics. And so for me, I don't like it as much, but that doesn't mean I feel you stomp down on their voices. I was not fully against Colin Kaepernick when he decided to have a conversation, then he took a knee. What I was against was people having it more driven in an extreme of one way or another, instead of saying, okay, why are you doing that? Okay, let's listen to you. They make it not be a crazy thing. I think the second politics gets involved, people lose their ever-loving minds, especially more now than ever. And it's just insanity to me. And so, listen, I get when people say to me, Chad or Soup Boss, you're a fool. Like, politics are tied to sports. Well, so is business, so is economics, so is so many other things. And yet we make those just finer points in the conversations. And a lot of what we focus on in sports is the fact that some guy just drilled a ridiculous 3-pointer to win a game, or Luka hitting his, or the close matchup with the Heat and Rockets. Like, that's why we love the sports. It's not saying that there isn't other things attached to it. And we bring it up, like we brought up with the Yankees and being driven by finances for baseball. Like, things are attached to sports. But what I hate is when those are what takes over the aspect of the sports world. So no, don't shut people down, but don't make it the focus. Why are we making it the focus? Because these players, especially today, they have every avenue they need in order to be able to make their voices known, in addition to what they do. Twitter, Instagram, every form of social media. Media now is more involved in stuff. And if LeBron James tomorrow went to any of the media networks, from Fox News to CNN, and said, hey, I want to be able to do an interview, they're going to interview him. Yeah. Let them be able to express their voice, but have them seek it in addition. Yeah. You as the league, I don't think you need to make it as much of a focus. Be there for your players, but don't go over the top. I don't feel it's necessary. That's just me.
In addition to that, the one thing that I will add to that, because I don't like getting into politics. I know, when you get into politics, all you do is divide, because then you got one side that's mad at you, one side that's happy with you, or both sides get mad at you, which I prefer. I'd rather have everybody mad at me. But the one thing that I will say when it comes to the NBA and what they've done with the politics is, and this goes for any sport, if you're going to be heavy into the political movement, I want to see you doing something about it with the avenues that you can take, like a LeBron James. I will never tell LeBron James not to speak his mind. You know why? Because LeBron James is out there in his community. He's out there building schools for inner city children. He's paying for educations. He's doing all the things necessary to invoke change. So when he talks about invoking change, I don't mind listening, because he's doing the things that are out there that need to be done and that we ask them to do when they start coming. That's the first thing people say. Well, you make so much money. Why don't you put your money out there? Well, a lot of them do. Most of them we don't hear about. Some of them we do. And LeBron's one of those that we do because he's done so much, man. The building the school and giving free education is a huge step. Paying for college education for anybody who has, what was it, like a 3.2 or higher grade point average heading out of high school, he'll pay for their education for college. That's amazing. Yep. That is something that he's doing to get people out of situations that they are in, and what he's doing is good. So when a guy like that talks, I'm okay with it. But
it's okay. It's okay to talk. They should talk, and they should be given an avenue to talk, and we have all of it. But don't make they're everywhere else. When it comes time to play the game, it's not a shut up and dribble thing that some people talk. No. It's literally, though, let me enjoy watching the sport. The reason I know LeBron James is because he's damn good at basketball, and I want to see him play basketball.
And one of the things that I saw when the NBA went on strike is there was an ESPN writer who wrote something that said, these black players' lives or black players' games don't matter until their lives matter. And to me, that's just an idiotic statement, because these are all, black athletes that we celebrate on any given day. Like we're celebrating their lives. So to say that, and I get the premise of the statement, and I get what's going on in the world, and I understand the statements that they're trying to make. But at some point, you're just beating a dead horse, and you're trying to drive something. You're trying to drive your point of view down somebody's throat who might not want to hear it. And then at that point, all you're doing is dividing. The NBA has lost a ton of viewership.
Their ratings are down.
Their ratings are hurting bad because of the walkout.
And listen, it's some people might. I think the thought process is that aspect what you brought up with the division. It's if you're not watching is because you're against what the players are saying. I don't think that's always the case. No. Now there is the extreme of people that say just shut up and dribble. But I think what happens is I turn on the game because I want to watch sports. I will still get on Twitter and hear what they're saying. I will still listen to their post-conference talk. I will still see the message on their shirt and self-reflect and think. People aren't against the message. It's just they don't. Yeah. I want to be able to watch the game. And what was crazy is watching that Thunder Rockets game last night, I totally realized, sitting in a living room with a bunch of people, there was 3 of us who – on the political spectrum, we're all different in our views of kind of where we lined up. And guess what? All 3 of us just love the game because we didn't talk about that crap. That's to me why sports are amazing. They allow us to escape it. And that's why in Sports Soup I say I don't want politics on there, not because I'm trying to censor things or to shut people down or to shut down voices. I want to create a place to people to escape that aspect in the real world just for the aspect of I want to enjoy sports. Doesn't mean I don't think that this stuff is important.
I said it all the time. People used to ask me because I used to, when I played softball, I would try to play as much as I could. At one point, I was playing on 3 different leagues, and I was doing tournaments every week. Like I was out there playing a lot. And somebody asked me how do you or why do you play so much? I said, look, for the 2 hours on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday that I'm out on the field, I don't have bills. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. There's nothing for me to worry about except for the game.
The game.
And it's an escape, and that's what sports is. That's why I love sports so much, and that's why I'm so heavy into it. But anyway, moving on from all of
good question, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great question. Always look, we don't shy away from a lot of stuff. We're not bound by the politics of some of your bigger networks. We can actually speak our mind. Some people agree, some people will disagree, and that's fine too. I'm always of the mindset of if you don't agree with me, I'll listen to your side of things. I'll listen to your point of view.
That's why we got Shop Talk, baby. Come bring those.
Yeah, I might agree with your statement and your movement, but doesn't mean I have to agree with your antics and the way you go about things. So I like to look at things from a broad spectrum. So anyway, moving on. We've been talking a little bit about hockey. The Avs forced a Game 7. It's funny because I was talking to Rapid Dave yesterday, and I asked him the same question because he's from Texas, so he's a Dallas Stars guy, and I said, if the Avs force Game 7, do you think the Stars are done? And he said, yeah, absolutely. If they lose Game 6, they're not winning Game 7. Do you think that's the case?
Who would win Game 7? The Stars?
No, the Stars would not win Game 7.
No, it's funny because our Twitter poll with the Rockets Thunder, we said who was going to win it, and it was either Rockets, Thunder, or flip a coin, and it was 33%. Even after additional votes, it was 33% all three. I almost feel like this is the same way because this series has literally been one where you have no idea what's going on. Like, these are blowouts, but not blowouts by one team. It's blowouts by both teams back and forth. The funny thing is we're getting the opposite in the Flyers and Islanders, which is why I'm hoping the Flyers tie it up because they've actually had in all their games pretty close games. Man, this Avalanche Stars series is just – it's going to come down to who can come out in the first period and knock a couple goals in the net, because it seems like the second a team gets up by 2 to 3 goals in this series early, that's it. It's done. The Flyers had a game, one of the ones they won in overtime. They came out in the first period. They were up 3-0, 10 minutes into the game. Islanders came all the way back to tie it 3-3 before the Flyers won in overtime. This Stars and Avalanche series, man, once a team gets out 2-3 goals, the other team just looks dejected. So I don't know. Flip a coin. I'm not putting money on that. Hell no. I don't care if you gave me plus 600 odds on one of the teams. I don't know if I'd put money on it.
I think for Stars fans, and you and I can relate to this. I think what it is for Dallas Stars fans, remember the Red Sox in 2003, or for me, the Cubs every year before 2016? Whenever they got into it, they always seemed to find a way to blow it, right? So until they won it, we didn't believe they were going to win it. We always thought they were going to find a way to lose it. And I kind of think that that's where he's coming from with the Stars. I think that's where Stars fans are. Oh, how are we going to lose it this year? How are we going to – like, I think that they have just as good a chance to win Game 7 as the Avalanche do. I don't think that there's a clear –
I think it's flipped. It's right down the middle. But your analysis is correct. In fact, being here in Oklahoma City, only 3 hours from Dallas, the company I worked at before where I'm at now, we did a lot of events in Dallas. And a lot of my coworkers knew that getting me there's a Hooters right next to that stadium that they play the hockey games in.
Yep.
And getting me some Sam Adams in my system, some tall boys. We watched Game 7 against St. Louis a few years back, and they just choked in that game. They lost like 5-1 or something like that, and then they drove me around in a car, and I sat there screaming at their dejected fans walking through the streets, drunk off my ass, being its retarded Boston fan. But that's where they are with that. It's kind of one of those things where you're dead on, man. Until they see it happen, they're just going to kind of go like they're good, but they got to prove that. I just don't know if they can ever do it. It's almost like the 76ers for basketball. Same thing.
There is just over 2 minutes to go in the third period, tied at 4. And the Flyers just took an idiotic tripping penalty.
Oof.
So the Islanders are about to go on the power play with just over 2 minutes to go in a tie game in which the Flyers could be eliminated if they lose. So that's where that one's at. So did you see the news on Jake Allen?
No, I did not. I don't even know what you're talking about.
So Jake Allen is the goalie for the St. Louis Blues.
Oh, no. I was thinking of a different Jake Allen in football. Yeah, no, because I'm the one that posted it on Sportsuit.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So he gets traded from the Blues to the Canadiens, and I posed the question on there in which a Canadiens fan who I think is scared to lose Carey Price jumped all over me. But I'm not so sure that Jake Allen's going there to back up Carey Price. I think maybe the Canadiens are ready to move on from Carey Price. Jake Allen is 3 years younger than Price. Jake Allen is puts up the same numbers. I mean, this year their numbers were completely similar, and Jake Allen had a better save percentage this year than Carey Price did. Carey Price had a 90% save percentage, and Jake Allen had a 92% save percentage. So it's one of those where I'm not sure if they're going with that killer 1-2 combo in net, or if they're going to try to get something for Carey Price. But it was certainly an interesting trade, especially since the Canadians know that the Bruins may be on the lookout for
you just stole my thunder. That's what it is to me. I do think it is an aspect if they look at, hey, we can go with a killer 1-2. When we give Carey the rest, we know we've got someone just as capable of him in there. It's not like, hey, let's work a little bit harder for our backup goalie like what the Bruins were trying to do with Halak here in the playoffs. But the real reason behind this was knowing that the Bruins are walking into a postseason where they still feel like they've got enough to potentially get back. They were just in the Stanley Cup last year in Game 7, but the front line is getting older. There's questions, will Chara even be back, and should he even be out there? And Tuukka Rask not being there is a huge thing because Halak, though he did well, is not good enough to get you to the Stanley Cup. And the fact that the Blues were willing to trade him, Allen, I think that was a huge move by the Canadians to be like, no, you're not getting him. That if we have to hold on to Carey Price and Allen all season long to make sure that you Bruins get pinned down as our rivals, that's what we'll do. And I think that's what it was. I think it was a big-time move by them to be like, screw you, Beantown. We're going to go get him so you don't even have a chance. So because they don't know. We don't know. Tuukka's still got 1 year left on his contract. If Tuukka, and based on his personality, I guarantee you he's going to wait until the last second to decide what he's going to do, which is going to make it hard.
There's other options out there for the Bruins, and I'll tell you this one, and you might like it, you might not like it, but I know the Blackhawks are ready to move on from Corey Crawford.
Nah, I'd rather not.
I mean, Corey Crawford he's had his concussion problems and all of that, but he's still won 2 Stanley Cups. I know he's an older goaltender, but you guys are ready to win now. So it's not like you're looking for, to bring on a guy who's a project.
Well, we're ready to win now, but it's not an aspect of all of our eggs are in the basket because the Bruins still have a good, strong, young set of players too. It's not just it is a win now, but it's also being smart, knowing that you can be competitive and win for the next 5-10 years. But you just have to be smart with that. So I think they're trying to look for an Allen. I think that's what they're looking for potentially to replace Tuukka. And I think the Canadians were just like, you're not going to get him.
There's another Blackhawks player who I think people are going to be surprised is probably going to be out there because I think the Hawks are ready to blow this thing up and figure out the future.
I do too.
I think that they're going to keep Patrick Kane, but I think Jonathan Taves is gone.
I wouldn't be shocked. Where's his contract at? He's still signed there, right?
He's still signed. I think he's signed for a little while anyway. But what would he do to that Bruins team over there? And he has always said that he loves playing in big cities.
Well,
I know he's Canadian too, so he may go to a Canadian team. But man, that would be a huge get for.
I could see him going to Pittsburgh, man. I could see them working something out with Pittsburgh in that aspect.
Can you see Jonathan Taves centering a line with Crosby and Malkin?
It would suck, but I could see them going for it. If you're the Penguins front brass and you have the ability to pull that off right there, you're gonna tell me you're not gonna find every reason to do it. That's why I think they do it.
Jonathan Taves has always been he's a great player. He's an excellent captain. He's a leader. He's a great guy to bring to any clubhouse. It sucks that the Hawks are moving on from him, but you have to keep Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is the face of the organization. And when you go to a Hawks game, man, you see a whole lot more 88 jerseys than you do 19. Even walking down the street or when you talk to kids in the area about hockey, the first thing that they talk about is Patrick Kane. Hell, even when I was in New England, kids up there were trying to get 88 because that's who they were trying to be like. So
we talked about there's not very many known names in the sport of hockey, but Kane is one of those 5 to 10 names that people do know if they even pay a little bit of attention. You can't get rid of him. He's not just a face and the franchise player for the Blackhawks. He's a face for the NHL as a whole.
So Islanders and Flyers are headed to overtime in Game 6, and there's another Game 6 tonight. Do you think this one goes to Game 7? Because I don't think this one's as close as the other series are that we talked about. I think this one's been dominated by one team, even in their losses. Do you think that the Canucks force a Game 7?
No, I don't think they do. And with no disrespect to them, and it's not just because I'm a Bruins fan. I know there's a history with the Canucks aspect here. Trying to just trying to talk straightforward in a real productive manner. They've got to get one game they controlled. The other game they did not control. So to me, this series should have already been over. Now it's hockey. You and I talk about it all the time. It's a lot different than the other sports. Could at the end of the day, if I wake up and find out that they won, would I be shocked? A little, but not to the extent of all the other sports because it's far more possible. But you give me money right now, I'm putting it. The Golden Knights, they should have had this series wrapped up. They're way too good of a team. They far outmatched the Canucks, top to bottom. And not only that, the one game that the Canucks won, that really the Knights controlled. I think the Knights put on like 6. They hit the crossbar, the sidebar 6 times in the game. Like you're literally talking about millimeters of a difference. Like it's where they could have won that game by 4 goals. So no, I'm putting my money on the Golden Knights. In fact, I'm looking at what the line is right now because I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, in hockey, nothing surprises me. So if they do force a Game 7, I won't be completely shocked. But the Vegas Knights, I mean, they're the better team in that series. They're the better team in the Western Conference. It will be fun if Colorado does pull off this comeback and seeing how hot they're playing. That series could be amazing to watch.
Oh yeah,
that could be probably the best series of the playoffs so far.
Yeah, the Golden Knights, by the way, minus 250 and a goal and a half spread advantage. So
yeah,
that pretty much speaks volumes to me of what they are. And when you look at the other one, the Dallas Stars and Avalanche, the Stars are a plus 115 and the Avalanche are a minus 135. Which just shows how much closer that is. So no, I'd put my money on the Knights, even with that goal and a half. I'd put it on there.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to take another quick break, and then when we get back, we will talk some NBA. Well, actually, no. You know what we're going to do? We're going to get into our movies. Let's get into the movies, and if we have time, we'll hit NBA at the end. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Right, so we'll be back in just a brief moment. I'm only taking a break because, to be honest with you, I have to go to the bathroom. We'll be right back.
See me right now, through all the smoke. Plus I'm caught my feelings right now. I'm losing hope. So I hope you take this serious now. Cause if you don't, I won't be around for you to hear you from now. God, I thought we were past this. Conversations on past tense. About to kill myself, is that intense. Sick inside, I can't mask this. I don't care what it gon' hurt. So I trade my evil for your evil. Cause hurt people gon' hurt people. Then turn around and say you're evil.
All right, we are back. I feel a whole lot better. All right, so we've been talking about it all day, and we are going to get into our top 5 sports movies of all time debate. Now, this isn't what we think are the 5 greatest, sports movies. This isn't set in stone. This is what we think are the 5 best sports movies of all time. I guarantee you our lists are completely different. If we agree on any of these, like we have in the past on like all of our NFL things or anything like that, I may just end the show and never talk again because I don't understand how we agree so much. As much as we disagree, we've agreed a whole lot on some things when we come up with our list. So, all right, I'm gonna let you go first, Soup Boss. What's your number 5 sports movie of all time?
Okay, so I'm glad you put that little disclaimer in the front of this because that's what it is. This is to me, and to Soup Boss, it comes to what I enjoy. Okay, it's not to say that some of the movies that are not on my list aren't better production, aren't better ones that you put in front of a group of players per se and get them all pumped up. There's so many other better hardcore movies.
What's the biggest movie on your list that got left off of your list that's going to really piss people
off? Man, I would probably say, well, I'd want to say Miracle, but being that it's a hockey movie, even though it's so big, I don't know. I'd probably say probably Friday Night Lights. It's not on my list. A lot of people love Friday Night Lights. It's not that I didn't like Friday Night Lights, but Friday Night Lights was a one-time watch for me.
Remember the Titans is not on mine.
It's not on mine either. So this list to me is the Soup Boss's top 5 list of movies that I enjoy watching multiple times in a row.
Yeah.
I will watch I will watch these movies over and over and over again. So with that said, because I think you're even going to be shitting on me with this. My number 5 movie is the quintessential greatest hockey movie, not hockey, golf movie. Sorry, I got it mixed up. That's ever been made. Happy Gilmore is my number 5 sports movie because I have watched that movie 1,000 times, and even before the days of Anchorman, that was the movie that you quoted all the time. Oh, you can count, and you can count on me in the parking lot. Like, it invented the desire to quote more. And I know this is going to probably hurt some people if that's what they think is on my list, but Caddyshack is not on my list, even though that is so amazing. But Happy Gilmore, really, I mean, the fact that you got the Bob Barker aspect.
I was just going to say the fight with Bob Barker, man.
Oh, man, everyone talks about that. Bob Barker himself would bring that up at so many times. That Price is Wrong, bitch. Everything, Chubbs, all of those things. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. You eat pieces of shit. You can quote that movie top to bottom. And at the same time, when you watch it, as dumb as it is, you find yourself rooting for Happy Gilmore, just like the fans in there. So it's not just a comedy movie. It is actually a movie about rooting for the underdog person who I think a weird guy with a big beard and a handlebar mustache would be the type of guy that would be out there rooting for. So Happy Gilmore is my number 5.
So I also have a movie who every time, and actually all these movies, anytime that they're on, I stop and I watch it. I don't care where it's at in the movie. I don't care if I've already missed half or even if it's at the beginning. I stop and I watch the movie. And I've talked before about how I ref hockey and how I play hockey. I love pickup hockey. I love rat hockey. So my number 5 movie of all time, to me, is the best hockey movie of all time, and that is Slapshot.
Okay, they weren't on my list, but that is yes, I agree with you. That's the best hockey.
Absolute legendary movie. I mean, the comedy in it, it really is like beer league hockey. It's really what you get out of the rink when you are there. When he's standing in front of the goalie and talking about, fucking his wife last night and all the stuff that they're doing to get in the guys' heads. I mean, that is the stuff that you have during pickup hockey or during men's league hockey. That's the stuff that we do. It's the way that we joke around with one another, and it's the game of hockey. The fights, that movie right there captures everything that is great about sports. So I have Slapshot as my number 5.
Good. I was going to say, because a lot of people look at me, because Miracle is such an amazing movie. It really is. But I still put this Slapshot ahead of it because, again, it's the same aspect. To me, Miracle told an amazing story.
I have a heart
wrencher, but I'll watch Slapshot multiple times.
I have a hard time with putting, when I put top 5 movies for me, I have a hard time with putting movies that were based off of real life events, because to me that was probably the greatest hockey moment of all time, and so like I just they already had a basis for the movie. They already knew what went on. You already knew what was going to happen. You knew what the ending was. They did a great job depicting it. I mean, it really was a very, very well done movie. I can't tell you how many times I've used the again meme. I mean, when when Herb Brooks is blowing his whistle, going again, and he's making the guy skate after a loss. Like it was a great movie. It was well done. They captured the moment great, but Slapshot for me is the greatest hockey movie of all time.
Nice.
At number 4, I went with a different side of things. So at number 4, this one it's still a sports movie, but it's more about the office side of things. Also, kind of a romantic comedy type thing. But I went with Jerry Maguire.
Wow! Can I just say before you say it? I'll put it up here. I have special I don't want to give my list away. Special consideration for Jerry Maguire because there's so much battle if it's a sports movie to me. And to me, Jerry Maguire, I will watch over and over and over again, but I give it a special consideration because there's so much fight. So good for you.
The little kid in that movie cracks me up. Did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds? Like that little kid cracks me up, and he also breaks my heart later in the movie when Jerry Maguire, is leaving, and he tells the wife to take the job, and he's just sitting in the car, and he's like, just go ahead and go. The little kid breaks my heart, man. But that movie was so many great scenes when he is
show me the money.
Well, the show me the money scene is great. The the scene where Tidwell's down on the field really gets into where how an agent feels for their players sometimes. And I mean, it was just such a good movie. You Had Me at Hello was a great scene. There are just so many different scenes in that movie that are really good, but that's definitely a sports movie. So for me, that hits number 4. What's your number 4, Soup?
Well, this is kind of crazy because I agreed with you on that aspect with a special consideration. And then it's funny, we both went comedy with a 5, and then we went with a different kind of a look at number 4. And a movie to me that so many people, when I bring up, go, I don't even know what that is. And then I get them to watch it, and I'm talking like dudes. Like, I'm not trying to make this a sex thing, but guys are like, I don't watch chick flicks. I don't blah, 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 blah. And they watch this movie and they'll be like, what are we watching? And they're leaning forward by the end of it. To me, this is one of the greatest. It's literally a love story and a sports story all together. And I don't know what it is about it, but every time I watch it, I just get sucked in. It's got great little one-liners, but at the same time, the story's so driven. Like I said, people of all sorts love it. Love and Basketball. No, not Tin Cup. Love and Basketball to me is my number 4. Like who are you going to the prom with? Spalding is just one of the best slide joke lines in film history that just was made to like break ice and break tension. And that back and forth, because that movie literally has you wondering if a relationship is going to equate, but built around a man. And I think me as a man, the driven desire to still be able to be successful and to prove yourself in an athletic manner and to feel like that you are good enough there, but you're also good enough to be able to obtain a relationship with someone who feels the same way.
I have an omission. I've never seen Love and Basketball.
Gotta watch it, man. I'm telling you.
I've heard it. People say great things about it. I've just, for whatever reason, I don't know why, I've just never caught it, and I've never gone out of my way to watch it. But I hear it all the time. People say it was a great movie. So
very first DVD I ever owned when I bought my own DVD player and DVDs. I bought it first, and you what you just said, I've heard from so many people. So go watch it, man. Go watch it this weekend if you can. It's an amazing movie. I will. You think is it good for? You think my girl would like it? Is it? Yes. Oh yeah. So if you want to get your girl, and that's the thing. Some people are like, I don't want to watch it. It's a chick flick. You will still be driven in watching it, and it is one where we used to watch it like girls and boys all together. And the thing is, on the female side, it empowers them too. It's not like the girl just chasing after the boy. Like she is powerful. She's strong in that movie. The main female.
Jared just ruined it for me though.
What the hell, Jared? What the hell, Jared?
Oh man. Jared,
still watch it. Still watch it.
I'll still watch it. Sorry for that spoiler, Colin. So yeah, no, and you know what's funny too is that I'm all right with watching. I don't mind watching chick flicks here and there. There are some very good ones that I don't mind watching. As a matter of fact, number 5 of my all time baseball movies was a chick flick, and that was For Love of the Game. I think For Love of the Game is a great baseball movie. I think For Love of the Game does, wonders for showing what some of the players can go through and how they can have things on their mind while they're playing the game and not even realize that they're playing the game. They do a great job, but that's definitely a chick flick as well because it's a love story.
Yep.
What do you have at number 3?
Number 3 is one where you said, I don't put real life stories into them, and this was a big thing with Wayne saying the same thing. But this to me is not just a great representation of real life experiences and what happened in the sports world, but it is just a quintessential classic that I have yet to meet people that don't like movies. Like, shockingly, there are people like that. They'll sit and watch it. A League of Their Own is by and far, to me, one of the best movies that people of all ages, all backgrounds, all thought processes will watch. It gets you excited about the game. You get into the players, you get into the story, you get into each character. And then when they trade what's-her-face away, I've watched people of all ages and sizes just like, what's going to happen? And it is just and what's crazy is it's a movie that, this with all movies, you know how it's going to end. But usually I go back to and watch comedies, right? Because I go back for those funny moments. I go back for those lines. But A League of Their Own, I go back and almost watch it as if I don't know what's going to happen. Does she hold on to the ball at home plate? I've watched it 100 times, and yet I still watch it. And it's just loaded with just some of the greatest lines. Rosie O'Donnell, when you could actually stand her. Madonna, when she wasn't just trying to, she kind of acted like the slutty girl, but at the same time, she was badass. And just, of course, there's no crying in baseball. It's just everyone knows that line. Everyone knows that line. So my number 3.
All right. Well, hey, that's a really good one. I do enjoy that movie. Neither one. What's funny? Neither. I know I didn't have it in my top 5 baseball movies. I'm not sure. I think Wayne might have though.
He did, because I was giving him crap. He's like, I don't put real life movies in my top list. And then 2 picks later, he's like, oh, League of Their Own. And I was like, you bastard. Because that's when I was ragging on you guys for not putting in 42.
So at number 3, I have Rocky. Look, Rocky is one of my all-time favorite movies, period. Not even just sports movies, just favorite. I love Rocky. I've watched every single one of them probably about 4 or 5 times. I think Rocky 4 might be my favorite. But the original Rocky is just a fantastic sports movie. The relationship that he has with Mick is just, it's phenomenal. Always reminds me of my relationship with my grandfather and how close we were. And man, when he in Rocky 3, and if you haven't seen it, and I hope Jared Parrott hasn't seen it yet, because I hope I ruin it for him. When Mick dies in Rocky 3, it's probably the first time that I ever cried during a movie.
Everyone tears.
God, dude, it's horrendous. But such a good movie, such a good series. Even now, even the Creed series, the Creed and Creed 2 were very good. So for me, I had Rocky at number 3.
Nice.
At number two, look, I have probably what I would think is probably the best football movie ever made. And so many quotes. I used to play an ending thing, and one of the things that we did was a quote from this movie, and where Al Pacino's walking into the locker room, and he goes, I don't really know what to say, and he's just, look, that movie, Any Given Sunday, is just a badass movie, beginning to end. Lots of great actors in it, and the job that they do in that movie is just very good. Jamie Foxx is phenomenal actor anyway, but in that movie he does a great job, and I really enjoy the movie. Anytime it's on, I'll watch it. I love all the quotes that come out of that movie, and Al Pacino as the coach was probably a perfect role for him in that movie. So I have Any Given Sunday at 2. What's your number 2?
Yeah, and just so you know, Any Given Sunday for me is an honorable mention. Shockingly, I don't have any football titles in my top 5. I don't know what it is in that aspect because I love the sport so much, but there's a lot. There's in Any Given Sunday. If I was to put the best football movie, that would be it. So it probably would be right around my 6th movie, but I actually didn't have it because these other 2 to me are on a level of just hitting you in the heart and the gut. And I've got my number 2. And there's so many people that if we were saying these are the
Jared says my dog's name is Rocky. Of course I've seen it. Sorry, I named him Balboa, but my son made me go with Rocky.
Yeah. For me, my number 2 movie is The Wrestler. Ricky Moore.
Very good. Yeah.
There is an aspect, and we talked about it with the unfortunate passing of your friend, of just the demons that we fight. And as someone who's fought and continues to fight the demons of things such as depression and other things like that, but it's still attached to an aspect of feeling like I have to achieve, or I get in the dumps, but then I feel like I need to prove myself. If you've never watched the movie The Wrestler, first off, make sure that you don't have kids around.
Yep.
Make sure that you don't have to constantly get up. Make sure your phone is turned off. Don't get distracted, because if you get distracted during that movie and then you go back and watch it, and by the end you're going to go, eh. But if you actually watch it from beginning to end without interruption, the gravity of how that movie ends and how you feel is something that when I talk to a lot of my friends about it, gets them sometimes to understand what I feel inside sometimes on just a day where I just wake up on a different level and don't get why. And it's the only movie or only thing that I've ever heard friends that have their own demons but don't fight with those similar ones to hear them get it a little bit more. So The Wrestler, to me, it's hard because I'll watch it a lot, but I have to be careful to not watch it too much to get myself sucked into bad drain. So it's kind of like I got to pace. Like I'll watch it once every 4 to 6 months. But I mean, that's to me is just one of the best movies. Yep.
Yeah, very well done. It puts you into the life of some of the I've always been a big wrestling fan, not so much lately, just because I feel it's kind of watered down, and the stuff that the writers are doing now, I don't feel like it's as good as it used to be.
You'd be the better WWE writer.
I would be the best WWE writer. But I haven't gotten into it as much. I still follow it because my son is Brandon Jr. is huge into WWE. Absolutely loves it. Watches every pay-per-view. Watches every Monday, Tuesday, Friday, whatever other day that they're on. And that really gives you a perspective of those guys that really go into the bingo halls all the time, and the things that they do to their body and the things that they give up. And some of them, because they get sucked into drugs and alcohol and some of those other demons that they deal with, they lose out on things that they didn't really, necessarily intend to lose out on. And it's a sad situation sometimes. And it is what it is. But that movie, they do great things. So.
Yep.
Great choice. Jared agrees. Jared says, awesome fucking choice, Soup Boss.
Thanks, Jared.
All right. So, number 1. God, we haven't agreed this whole time. And if we agree on number 1, I'm going to be so sad. Number 1, what do you have, Soup?
I know we won't agree because you already have it on your list, but it's lower. To me, there's not a movie that transcended not only a generation, but also a full city. To this day, it is still something that if you go to the city of Philadelphia, you're going to those steps and you're going to march up and down them. And not only that, it ties in all the stuff that you brought in with what happens with Mick, the whole storyline with him and Adrian, and the continued aspect with Creed and what he's done there. I put it as number 1 as the first Rocky movie because it's the one I know the most, and I still do probably love it the most. And yet the whole Rocky universe is just transcendent of human emotion, human drive, sports, challenges, death, everything, ups and downs. And now with the Creed thing, it's an aspect of watching a guy like Rocky finding a time of, as we get older, how do you find comfort in your older life where you're confident and comfortable what you're doing, but still give to the next generation. Don't let what you know go to waste. And what we're seeing in the new Creed movies is that aspect. To me, Rocky is the best movie ever, and the Rocky universe really ties it in. It was almost a challenge with me with The Wrestler. If there was never a second Rocky movie, it would be really hard for me, but because of the whole universe, Rocky is my number one.
Yeah, hey, look, I have no problems with that being number one. If you've ever listened to this show, you've probably already guessed my number one.
I know yours.
I am a baseball guy through and through. I love the game of baseball. I
You're killing me, Smalls.
eat, sleep, and breathe the game of baseball, and I love youth sports. Like I said, I think the best thing about baseball, the purest thing about baseball, is when we're kids and we're playing with our friends and we're out, picking teams at local parks, and we're tossing a bat to see who hits first, or see who gets to pick first, and all that other stuff. So for me, The Sandlot is number one.
I knew that was going to be number one.
I absolutely love this movie. Anytime it is on, I will sit down, I will watch the whole thing. If I've missed any of it, I will find it and I will start it from the beginning and sit down and watch it. My kids love it. My girlfriend's nephews love it. I will watch that movie anytime, anywhere, and never get tired of it, and I will always laugh at it. The scene where he's trying to get Wendy Peppercorn and he goes into the pool, man, and when she's giving him mouth to mouth, I'm like, you're really thinking, oh my God, they're really gonna put this in a kid's movie. And then all of a sudden he opens his eyes, man, and oh my God, you just start laughing because you're like, man, I wonder if I could try that. You know what I mean? Like you become that kid, and you just.
I wonder if a 40-year-old dude could try that.
Hey, look, whatever you got to do, right? Hell, it's better than Tinder, I would assume.
That should be. We should bring back The Sandlot into a movie production and be like, Sandlot, better than Tinder.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I absolutely love that movie. So I have The Sandlot at number one. All right, Soup Boss. Well, we are out of time.
There we are.
So why don't you tell the people one more time where they can find us?
Yeah. So one more time, go Cardinals. And then you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at the number 3 Shot Sports, but most importantly on YouTube, Triple Shot Sports Podcast. Hit the subscribe, like some videos for us, share it, get yourself some free signed memorabilia. We need to get to 100 before we go on air Sunday night. So get the subscriptions and share
it. If we don't get to 100 before Sunday night, I am taking one of your toys away. I am taking one, and I don't even know which one it's going to be yet. We're going to pull it out of a hat.
Yep.
You might lose the Saquon Barkley. You might lose the Tatis. I mean, you could lose any of those prizes that I put out there.
I know Sean wants that Ridley jersey.
The Ridley jersey could go. The Falcons jersey. So if you want any of these pieces of memorabilia, you better make sure that you're subscribing on YouTube, that you're sharing it with all your friends, that you're telling everybody where they can find us, and we will pull some of this stuff and get you guys some free prizes. So let's get to 100 by Sunday. We will see you guys Sunday. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.